Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry to hold you up. Joined, it's a pretty significant announcement about important information that you all pretty much know already. Hey, Richie. Good, good. I'm joined by a couple of Philadelphia's finest public servants, certainly our Finance Director, Rob Dubow, Anna Wallace-Adams, Chief of Staff to the Finance Director, Richie McKeithen, Chief Assessment Officer, the first Chief Assessment Officer for the City of Philadelphia in the Office of Property Assessment. I also want to recognize and thank Marissa Waxman, Deputy Administrator, Office of Property Assessment, and Michael Piper, who's also a Deputy Administrator, Office of Property Assessment. I'm going to talk about the details of where we are with the Actual Value Initiative, AVI, and then, of course, either try to do my best to answer any questions that you might have or that the rest of the team might be able to answer. But this is an important moment in Philadelphia, and I want to talk about it. All of you know, for decades, our system of assessing property in Philadelphia has been completely broken. Completely broken. It's unfair, inaccurate, and totally confusing. Properties of similar size, location, age, or condition had wildly different assessments, or properties that would sell for significantly different amounts would actually have the same tax bill. A fundamentally bad system producing bad data led to a tax impact where many Philadelphians were billed too much in property taxes and some not paying their fair share. In 2010, voters of Philadelphia made abundantly clear that they wanted a new property assessment system dedicated to fairness, accuracy, and understandability. We created the Office of Property Assessment, working with Philadelphia City Council, also known as OPA, and hired Richie McKeithen as the city's first Chief Assessment Officer. Under his professional leadership, OPA has overseen this major reform effort, decades in the making, but under Richie's leadership and on his watch, the move to the Actual Value Initiative. They've undertaken the massive task of reassessing all real property in the city of Philadelphia. That's 579,000 parcels of property in our great city. This week, we reached a key milestone in the AVI process. We know the approximate total aggregate value for all properties in the city of Philadelphia. It's $96.5 billion for residential, commercial, and industrial properties. To generate the same amount of revenue in 2014 as we will in 2013, based on the $96.5 billion aggregate value of all properties in the city of Philadelphia, the tax rate would need to be around or approximately 1.3% if there are no tax relief measures in place. That rate would need to be about 1.4% with the homestead relief factored in. That was passed earlier this year by City Council and signed by me. In addition, if there are other ideas and other proposals that may arise in the course of the budget process this upcoming year, just so you have some sense of what that costs, each additional $10 million in relief adds about 0.01% to the tax rates. Whatever combination of tax rate and relief measures the administration and City Council ultimately choose and agree to, that will result in a much lower tax rate that is in place today. It is very important for every property owner to understand that rates will be reduced significantly. Presently, the rate in Philadelphia is approximately 9.77%. As I've laid out to you, next year, as we go through this process, the rate will be approximately 1 point something, depending on what relief measures we ultimately agree to and get passed by City Council and signed by myself. The AVI tax formula will be much simpler and easier to understand. Multiply the market value of your property times the new tax rate, and that will tell you what your 2014 tax bill will be. It is the ultimate in just mathematics. I want to reiterate that the projected rates I just mentioned are not final until City Council and the administration set a new rate in late spring of next year. That is, as always, is done through the budget process, and we expect that sometime in possibly April, May, hopefully not June, but sometime in the spring, when the budget process is passed, when a final tax rate is set, we will know what that final number is. In addition, there are a variety of variables that do affect what the ultimate tax rate is, like abatements, properties with exempt status, and the percent of taxes that are due, which are also ultimately collected, also known as the collection factor. The $96.5 billion total aggregate value of all taxable properties in Philadelphia is not, though, the final number. About 3% of the properties in the city, roughly 16,000 parcels, have a variety of anomalies. For example, in some cases, the ratio between land and improvements for a given property made no sense. OPA should have the final confirmed values for those properties within the next couple of weeks. This likely will change the overall number of $96.5 billion, but the change should be minor, and we, at this point, expect that the number will possibly go up just a little bit, but it is in the billions, so it does matter. With AVI, we have built a system that is fair and more accurate with a tax formula that is much simpler to understand. Our system is fixed, and for the most part, but nothing ever, of course, is perfect. We will continue our daily efforts to make sure that the system is working as best as possible. When this process is completed, some property owners will see their ultimate tax bill go up, and many will see their tax bill go down. We have put in place an appeals process system to help those who believe that their new values are wrong when they get them next February. I've briefed Philadelphia City Council and the Philadelphia delegation of both the House and the Senate on the total aggregate property value number, as I've shared it with you here this afternoon. We will continue to work together to put various relief measures forward to try to help alleviate some of the impact for some property owners who may see their tax bill go up. We've already put in place, of course, the homestead exemption as a relief tool. If you own and live in your home, you are eligible for the homestead exemption, but you have to apply. Now, earlier this year, we sent out application notices and put the form up on the city's website. Many people did fill it out. And of course, as some of you will recall, we were anticipating AVI and the homestead exemption program to go forward this year. As you well know, that did not happen. And so at that point, we stopped the homestead exemption application process. Getting ready for where we are today, we restarted it and then asked property owners to get that form in by November 15th of this year in order for us to be able to put that exemption on their new assessment notice that they will get in February of 2013. But the true application deadline for homestead exemption is July 31st, 2013. So people can still apply for homestead exemption right now, and they should do it right now. There is no reason for any eligible homeowner not to apply for the homestead exemption. We want people to apply. You should apply. It is an opportunity to help lower your tax bill. The difference here is if you applied by November 15th and were approved, you will see it on your February 2013 new assessment notice. If you miss the November 15th deadline, it does not mean that you're not eligible, and it doesn't mean that you won't get it. It just means that it won't be reflected on your 2013 assessment notice. But the most important element here is, as long as you have applied no later than July 31st, 2013, it will be on your tax bill that you will get in December of 2013. And that is ultimately the most important component here. You absolutely want to see it on your tax bill, and that's what will happen if you missed the November 15th deadline. Our next major AVI milestone, as I've mentioned, I've said this a couple times, but I want to point it out, will be in February, when the Office of Property Assessment will send out notices to property owners with their new AVI assessments for the 2014 tax year. One final note. Right now, Philadelphians are getting their 2013 tax bills in the mail. Remember, again, these bills are for tax year 2013, and because of the delay from earlier this year, we used the old values and, unfortunately, the current system in making the 2013 bills. Next year, for tax year 2014, we will be using the AVI system and values. We will also use it to construct our FY14 budget and 5-year plan. The homestead exemption and any other relief tools that City Council and I develop and our administration develop will all be a part of the FY14 budget and, of course, the 2014 tax year billing system and process. All of those will be put together for the 2014 tax year and bills. And so with that, you guys, we'll be glad to try to answer any questions that you might have.
Do you have any estimate as to the percentage of residents who will see their tax bills increase as far as dollar amount versus those who will see their tax bills decrease?
Not at this point, and one of the primary reasons for that is that, A, we've not drilled down to the GMAs, the geographic market areas, yet, but more importantly to that whole entire calculation is we don't have a tax rate yet. We won't have a tax rate until, as I mentioned, until we go through the budget process next year. When we do that, then we'll have much more data and analysis. You or anyone else will be able to figure out exactly what that 2014 tax bill will be, and you'll know as a property owner whether it's up or down or pretty much stayed the same. But it's impossible to calculate that pretty much at the moment because we don't have a tax rate. But certainly we know that there will be variances, again, because the system has been broken for so long. Some property owners were way over assessed and have been paying more than they should, and some have been significantly underassessed and have not been paying at least their fair share.
Mr. Mayor, you said, and correct me if I've got this wrong, I believe you said
were wrong.
You would like to see you would like to see the amount of revenue brought in fiscal year 14 be the same as the amount of revenue being brought in fiscal year 13.
Yes.
And to some extent, the tax rate is going to be calculated backwards to meet that revenue goal. Can you say what that amount is?
It's approximately $1.2 billion.
And Mr. Mayor?
That covers both the city and the school district.
Could you explain why you decided the best idea is to take in the same amount of revenue in 2014 as in 2013?
Are you suggesting that we should try to take in more?
Well, last year you argued that the best idea was to actually recapture property tax values in previous years. So I'm wondering why you changed your mind.
Well, we were changing the system at that point in time. We also recognized, obviously, that there were significant challenges with regard to finances for the school district, and we knew, as is now dramatically shown, that when you go from FY13 with a total assessed value across the city of $38 billion, and now with a fixed system, approximately $96 billion, we knew that there was going to be a pretty significant increase in the overall values in properties across the city, and at the same time trying to provide additional support for the district. We're fixing the system. the values are what they are, and what we've said is that we would, in tax year 14 or FY 14, expect to bring in the same amount as we did in 13.
If I could follow up,
Don't.
'cause I'm not sure, last, or in the spring,
It was just earlier this year.
yeah, it seemed like last year. In the spring, what Holly was referring to was the administration stance that the extra $94 million that would be earmarked for the school district was the result of recapturing lost values because there have been.
From many previous years
yeah,
because
years
the
of
system's broken.
Right.
Yeah.
So while nobody wants to see, a higher amount of revenue brought in, why aren't you doing that now? Why are you backing off on that? Because in the end, you only got 40 million more for the school district, not 94.
I understand that.
And you're saying you're satisfied with that level of revenue brought in.
Well, one, I didn't say that. What I said was we're going to bring in the same
Well-
amount in 14 as we did in 13. And if I said something different, you'd be asking the flip side of the same
Yeah.
question, right?
You
So,
will.
I mean, it's absent, right? It is what it is. We're doing what we're doing. We think that it is the appropriate thing to do at this time. Obviously, the school district clearly has continued challenges. And, as their fiscal picture continues to go forward and as it evolves, if we get into a discussion about that, we'll discuss it at that time. But for the moment, what we're putting forward to the property owners, citizens, and taxpayers of the city is that our expectation is to bring in the same amount in 14 as we did in 13.
Mayor?
Nothing more, nothing less. Yes, George?
In the spring, council was predicting some more dire numbers about AVI and millage rate about 1.8. They described as completely undoable politically. Do you feel like these numbers, 96 and a 1.3 or 4, depending, are politically palatable for council members and those that would oppose AVI?
Troy, you know that I'm not in any way, shape, or form going to try to calculate at the moment the politics of all this. We're trying to fix a system. We think it is positive news, certainly, and many council members have acknowledged that, obviously 96, or if it ends up being, 99 or something like that, billion in terms of a larger base, that is certainly better than 80. And again, you see the relationship between the numbers. Down in the 1.3, 1.4 range is certainly better than 1.8. Ultimately, members will have to decide what works for them. They're certainly going to hear from their constituents. Our commitment here, and I think that all of us as elected officials have to be willing to, talk with all of our constituents, however many you have, that the goal must always be fair, equitable, accurate, understandable, and that everyone should pay their fair share. That many citizens in this city have been paying more than they should, and many have not been paying their fair share. And if we can give you a fixed, accurate, fair, understandable, and equitable system with some relief measures to go with it, that's all we can do. So, but each member has to make that decision. I'm very excited that we're fixing it, finally. And this is something that, I've been looking at and focused on for now pretty much all of my elected life. And we owe the citizens this, and we've owed it to them for a long, long period of time.
Is it clear how much the city may need to spend in appeals?
There's a calculation. I don't know if you want to. We have to try to estimate, and in addition to the fact that brand new system, brand new values, we have no idea how property owners are going to react or respond to that. But you look at all the previous years, you start to get some some averages. You can do some amount of modeling, but with a totally new system, it's almost, on the one hand, it's almost impossible to predict what property owners are going to do. On the other hand, we have to try to predict it because we have to build that in as one of the variables for, what the rate is and how do we generate, the required amount of money.
So there currently isn't an estimation?
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
an
there is.
estimate, every year there's an estimate every year there's an estimate in the property tax calculation of what appeals losses will be. We estimated that appeals losses would go up by about 50% next year, in the first year of AVI. So that's 50. So that's what's built.
Where is it?
It's about $30 million
$30 million increase or $30 million total?
total. in lost in appeals. And as the mayor said, that's an estimate. I mean, we've never gone through this before here, so that number could be different
And so this number is higher
than earlier years, yes.
Do you know, go ahead.
No, it's not.
On the appeals, that certainly is possible that many are appealing the current bills that are going out this month on the grounds that every public official says these numbers are broken. So do you have numbers on how many did file to appeal the bills that are for FY 13? I guess
FY 13.
14.
Yeah, it was not an extraordinary number of appeals this year. It wasn't more than a typical year.
Mayor, do you have any concerns about the impact of this on up-and-coming neighborhoods, whether it be, Southwest Center City or East Passyunk and South Philly or Fishtown neighborhoods that are really exploding in growth right now? Do you worry about what, dramatic increases in property values, assessed values might do to those neighborhoods?
Well, I mean, the folks in those neighborhoods probably know better than we do, and knew it, kind of going in, that, they were either moving into a neighborhood that was, kind of getting hot, or was already hot, or, has stayed, and, I mean, they paid, probably a pretty decent price for their home already. On the other hand, in their heart of hearts, in the, moment of true honesty, I mean, they have to look at that notice or that bill and say, there's no way in the world that I'm paying the right tax amount for what I paid for, what it's worth. And here's the thing. When, for most folks, their property is going to be their greatest and longest term and most appreciating net worth builder. When the value of your home goes up, I mean, generally, that's a good thing. It's worth more. If you needed to borrow against it, if you want to do something, whatever the case may be. So this is what happens. Someone has a nice house, it's worth whatever it's worth. When they go to refinance, when they go to, maybe borrow for whatever reason, with the bank, they want that property to be valued at the maximum possible value. With us, the city, they want the property to have the lowest possible value for tax purposes. Well, it's the same property. I mean, you can't have it both ways, right? So appreciating neighborhoods, appreciating property values in neighborhoods generally is a good thing. It's a sign that people want to be in those neighborhoods, that a number of transactions are going on, that the homes are, valuable. And at the same time, I mean, one of the reasons that we have the homestead exemption, which is available to everyone, regardless of value of your property, is to try to alleviate, some of that. But, I mean, again, if you buy a house for $500,000, you have to figure that it's a fairly valuable property. If you look at your tax bill, I mean, you could be paying what somebody is paying who bought a house for $150,000 in some instances in this city. That's not fair. So this is about fairness and it's about equity. People should just pay their fair share.
Can I
Mike?
follow up on that if I might?
Sure.
Some of the critics, like Alan Bukovitz, have also expressed concern. I think his phrase was that you'd be killing the golden goose with AVI, and that he thinks that the increase in taxes in some neighborhoods would kill the real estate market and momentum that's been built up essentially in outlying neighborhoods. What is your take on AVI's impact on that?
Well, first, I mean, I have to reject the controller's accusation that I would kill anything. I'm a peaceful man. But in a more serious way, fixing the system is what the citizens of this city have called for. And as I responded to Ben, I mean, pretty much the same. I mean, people know what their home is worth, generally. And they certainly, again, from time to time, if you engage in any kind of transaction, if you're refinancing, lowest possible rates in, history or whatever the case may be, you're going to get an appraisal. The home is worth more than what we've valued it at, especially with our broken system, and you're benefiting as a result of that. All we're asking you to do is to pay your fair share. We try to build in some relief measures, and at the same time, I mean, the flip of that is who's looking out for all the homeowners who've been paying too much for a long, long period of time? Well, that's not fair to them either. So, I mean, fair, accurate, equitable, and understandable. That's the goal. That's what the voters asked for. That's what they deserve. And that's what we're trying to do. So, I mean, you know, it's a free country. The controller's entitled to his view. But I think the citizens of Philadelphia spoke pretty loudly about this one.
Mayor, you mentioned this, but is it your intention that you don't intend to seek a property tax increase in fiscal year 2014? Obviously, if you're going to lay out a plan that's revenue neutral from 2013 to 2014?
Yeah, we're putting together, obviously, the FY14 budget right now. There's been no discussion at all, anywhere, about looking at sending over an increase, a bill to increase real estate taxes.
Even for the
Just
schools?
not. We're not talking about it for anyone right now. And it's just not a topic of conversation. And obviously, I'm well aware, we are very well aware of the serious financial condition of the school district. But the budget I introduced, I expect, will adhere to, will be responsive to the answer that I gave earlier in terms of what that number is.
So Mayor, isn't it correct that your decision to keep this at the current revenue level of $1.2 billion in effect makes permanent the 2 years of temporary property tax increases, I guess would have been FY 11 and 12. Those were never rolled back because in the current year you had, in essence, an increase.
Well, here's the deal. I mean, the new number will be the number, and it's the number primarily based on, you know, all the factors that we've laid out. But again, I mean, this kind of goes, I think, a little bit back to the earlier question about, you know, capturing. What?
And that really happened during last year's budget process with the new rate that was put in place.
Right.
So
So
that's the new rate.
That made permanent those.
That made the rates permanent.
So now they're even more permanent. Right?
Well, you can only be permanent.
Yeah.
I
So,
really-
can't make something more
so once something goes on your
Before my
permanent
question
record, Mike,
is-
it's there
I
forever.
understand, but the revenue target of $1.2 billion is what you had in FY13, and you're not going back to where you were in, obviously, in FY11, when you had that first supposed temporary.
I'm saying that changed last year when the new rate was set. So we're not reducing taxes next year, if that's your question.
It is the rate. Let me, while you're, seems like we've, I mean, Troy may want to talk about killing something else, but.
Can I ask one more question?
Sure.
On the issue of appeals, you gonna pursue, the Senate Bill 1302, which is kind of like Senator Williams' bill, the one that would do away with the current appeals? This is going back before my time, to create a new appeals board.
Oh, sure. I have to check the status on that particular bill from surely from their process up in Harrisburg. And what I'm referring to is, I don't know whether bills that were introduced last year now, I don't know how long they live there. I mean, the process is obviously a lot clearer here. You have a new term, anything that didn't get done, those all go away, et cetera, et cetera. But, I mean, the real answer to your question is, we think that, again, that would complete what we started, I guess, in '09 into 10, with separating the appeals process from the assessment process. We did the one with OPA, and I do still think it important to have a new appeals process. We were almost on the verge of implementing that before the ruling came from the Supreme Court, but we think that a more open process with people being nominated, confirmed by City Council, and you know, with a variety of you know, backgrounds, different training and qualifications that we wanted those appeals board members to have. I think that's still an important issue. I literally just have to check to see, is the bill still alive? Does it go away? And, because of the end of the term. So, I don't know.